Hi everybody, it's me Quinn, and today we're going to be talking about gluing out your brows. I see a lot of girls who need help with their brows, so I'm going to show you how I glue mine out. And best believe, a sis has got some thick ass brows, so if I can do it, so can you. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and you're going to apply a little bit onto your cotton round, which I don't know if you can see that or not. And then you're just going to go in and you're just going to swab the brow, and you're going to swab all around it just to get all this oil. As you can see, I have a lot on my skin. I like to go against the hair because it lifts up the hair and allows you to cleanse it a little bit better. And I'll even go down into the eyelid too, just because I want to make sure that everything is free of as much oil as possible. Okay, so in order to glue your brows, you need glue. Everybody uses pretty much the same thing, I've come to find, which is some version of this dirty, wonderful product that I currently have. It's just Elmer school glue, and it's a purple one. And it goes on purple and it dries clear. And that's kind of nice because if you put a lot on, you'll know it's dry because it's clear. I don't really put that much on every layer, so you're not going to see it too much, but I find that this formula works better than the other one. Make sure it says disappearing purple. If it doesn't say disappearing purple, I find that it doesn't work as well. So we're going to start with going against the hair, and we're going to start on the inner part of the brow. And just taking your time, you're going to pull all of that hair individually away from the tail of the brow. And I'll even swirl it because I want to make sure that I have glue in every part of the brow. So you're also going to need a comb, and these are just cheap Dollar Tree combs. So once you have your comb, the rat tail's fine, anyone's fine, as long as it has this thin comb. There's two types usually that comes with a comb. I like a thinner one and a thicker one. I don't like the thick one, it's too thick. This one's perfect and small enough to where it'll pick up all the hair. And I'll just start by combing all of that hair in its natural growth pattern. If you comb against the grain, what I find happens is the hair sort of will bend at the root, and then you can see it, and it doesn't look cute. So once you have it starting to lay down, you're going to go in and you're just going to peel it out. I lick my finger sometimes if it's drying too quickly, just to keep it wet. And I'll go in a few times to make sure that it's all laying down properly. I want to make sure that this first layer is even because it's the layer that counts the most. Everything else on top is just to make sure that you have enough layering to put on makeup without seeing each of the hairs. And sometimes the first layer is not laid down very properly. This one I can feel right here is up a little bit, I can feel a few hairs still outside of the glue. So we're not going to go too crazy, we're just going to put on another layer to keep it all down. So I'm just going to go with the hair again. And then I'll either lick it my finger, or I'll just get a little bit on my finger like that, and I'll just peel out the glue. Make sure that you're not putting on too much glue, because what ends up happening is that you get impatient and it dries, and then when you put on your next layer, it never dried, so you have wet glue underneath dry glue, and you get oatmeal. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to come back and we're going to do a pretty thick coat once this is all dry, and I'm going to show you how to make sure that layer is giving you a really smooth canvas. You always want to make sure that your brow is dry, and you can look at it and it can look dry, but it's not always dry. Feel it. It's okay to touch it. It's not going to disturb the glue too much. You can always just lightly tap it. If it is dry, I like to feel to see how rough it feels. If it feels super rough, I need to go in with quite a lot more glue, which we've only put on 2 layers, so it's really understandable that I still feel a little bit of texture in those hairs. So we're going to take our glue again, and we're going to really get in there and just sort of go ham and put as much glue on as possible. This is the one that's going to start to fill in layers. It's going to sort of do like a grout would do on tiles and fill in all of those gaps. And you might need to do this 2 to 3 times to get that smooth layer or that smooth canvas in order to draw your brow, but that is okay. It is worth it in the end. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start at the inner part of the brow, and I'm just going to put in a lot of glue until everything is properly covered. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to smooth that out by pulling it upward. I don't like to let any sit on my brow bone, because what ends up happening is your eyeshadow will look different on glue versus skin. So try to make sure that you're keeping as much of the glue on the brow region than your skin region. I'm going to let that dry and we're going to come back and probably do 1 or 2 more layers to get that flat canvas. Okay, so concealing the brow. Now, I have really dark eyebrows. They're practically black, so I have a very difficult time sometimes concealing my brows. Now, if you put a wet product on a water-activated product, it's going to reactivate, and you're going to get nasty, icky, goopy, sludgy-looking brows, and that's not fun, especially when you put all that time and effort into gluing them down. So I like to use a powder. This is by Revolution. It's the luxury baking powder, Poudre Couture de Luxe, and it's the orange one. So I'm going to use a clean, cheap applicator sponge, and I'm going to just dab it right on top of the powder and pick up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to gently lay down the powder on a mildly wet glue surface. Once it has time to like set a little bit, I go in and I just push down the hair or the glued eyebrow. And what this does is it makes sure that everything is laying down as flat as possible, and it pushes that powder into the glue. And then I let that dry for a second. Already this is pretty concealed. I would say that this is a better concealment that most people can achieve with wet product, and that's just because the powder is adhering directly into the glue. This product also is really phenomenal, and it's very pigmented. I do recommend getting this. It's like a baking powder for someone who has darker skin, but for drag, this is perfect for concealment too. So I'm just going to let that dry really quickly, and then we're going to come in and we're going to brush all that excess away. Alright, so taking just like a brush, this is like a little contour blush brush, we're going to brush away all of that excess powder. And what it's going to do is it's going to expose, a little bit of that hair, but it's going to take off all that product that we don't want to work with. So once you have that done, you're going to go in with a foundation, which I'm going to go grab right now, and then we're going to start working on covering up the concealed brow. Okay, so I'm here with my foundation, which is Kryolan TV Paintstick. This is the shade Shinto, which I love. This is one of the best foundations that I've ever worked with personally. I used to use wet foundations, and I just didn't like the overall coverage of the foundation. I find that it sits a little bit better, it doesn't move a whole lot, it takes a little bit more play in order to blend it out, but it sits longer and it looks better overall, especially for drag. Or I'm going to apply it in the same direction of the hair, and I'm going to put an even layer on every bit until I get even the orange covered. Okay. Once you have that done, you're going to go in and you're going to blend it out. I'm just going to use the same sponge I used with the orange. I'm just going to use the other side, and I'm going to start on the outside of the brow. And what this does is it picks up product, so when you go in over the brow, it doesn't pick up too much, so you don't disturb that layer. I don't like to put more than one layer of foundation, so this for me is like the best way to do it. And there you have it, girls. It's all covered. Now, this isn't the end. You're going to have to set it. Banana powder works really well because I'm pretty pale, and this is actually pretty good, a pretty close match to my skin. It doesn't have to be identical, but it has to be just relatively close. I'm going to go in with that banana powder. I'm going to pick it up with that same sponge I used for my shadow, and I'm just going to pounce it on top of that brow. I like to put a good bit, because if you're going to draw a brow on top, you want to make sure that it's dry, or else it's going to move a lot. And then we're just going to go in and we're going to dust and pounce the remainder of that powder away and blend it into the rest of that foundation. And you're left with no brow, girl. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you.